So this project that I'm doing is based on another dream that I had where I want to start connecting with more people that I get a sense from observing them that they also have the same thing that I have. I just kind of want to talk to people who I respect and ask them about how this same connection comes through for them.
I totally understand. You, with a connection like that, and we were speaking before a little bit, how you can feel isolated. You can feel alone. Like people don't understand what that feeling is or that situation. So to be in company and conversation with like-minded individuals, I completely understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and something I've heard from my herd, or I call them the sky horses. They're saying we need to reconnect. They said, watch me, like everything.
Wow.
Watch the way
Wow.
I find these plants. Watch the places where I stand.
Wow.
And I think they're worried about us and wanting us to come back, whatever way is comfortable for us.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, very true. I think so many things came up when you said that, when they're saying, watch me, watch how we've done this. We've been here and
Mhm.
we've been living in cohabitation with the world and the plants and the other animals and the medicine. And if you look at how I live and try harder to live like me, you'll
Yeah.
be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
So my first question for you, when was the first time you became aware that you could communicate with animals?
I'm also from Colorado as well. I grew up on the Southern Ute Reservation, which is outside of Durango, Colorado. We had about 13 acres and horses, goats, chickens, dogs, cats, rabbits, pretty much all kind of farm animals. But then from there, we had to move into the city. And I think when we moved into the city, I was probably about 9 or 10. And our chicken coop obviously attracted lots of birds. But when I was about 10, I started making a friendship with a raven who
Mhm.
was coming to the chicken coop. I didn't know that I could speak things to them and they would know what I was saying, right? It was more of a feeling like the raven and I felt safe in the chicken coop because honestly, my childhood wasn't the greatest, but when you're a kid and you're afraid of things and you go hide in a chicken coop, nobody thinks to look for you there. So when I was there, the raven and I would just hang out and I started to find out how inquisitive they were and curious about things. And we would play little games. Like I would try to hide stuff in the hay in the coop and he would go through it and find it. And so when I was probably 9 or 10, I realized that a friendship with animals was there and I had that. But I think the most significant event that happened to me when I was probably 17 and I used to do these endurance trail racing rides. And long story short, we had finished the race and we were coming back from the race and we had camped over in a campground. And we'd set up our stanchions so that the horses couldn't get out and they wouldn't go anywhere overnight. I had been charged with feeding and taking care of through the night, and I was finishing, and it was later in the evening, 10 or 11, and I just couldn't sleep and this overwhelming sadness just came on me and I was crying a lot and I couldn't place it. So I went outside to where the horses were and there was a very specific horse. We had these horses stanchioned off, but we also had a makeshift pen for one specific horse that was kind of like a little ornery, right? He would kick other horses and stuff like that, but he was by himself and he was laying on the ground. And so, for whatever reason, that horse is the one that was calling me. And I went over to him, and they say horses' most vulnerable position is on the ground. So
Mhm.
when I went to him on the ground and he didn't move,
Wow.
I knew he was saying, come be with me right now." So I got to him, I put my arms around his neck, I hugged his neck a
Oh,
moment, and I went back into the trailer, and the sadness didn't go away. It stayed. And I thought that was going to fix it. Like I thought maybe he was feeling lonely and maybe I was feeling lonely, but I thought it was going to fix it. So the following morning, someone else was feeding breakfast and some of the other horses got into a fight and started kicking each other. And they kicked into the stanchions, which is the hot wire that keeps them there. And it created a stampede. and they all ran around this RV park where we were camped at. And by the time I came out of the trailer, they were making their second lap around the park. And when they made that second lap around the park, for whatever reason, they decided to run right out the front gates. So they all ran out the front gates, and the herd turned to the left. And Ringo, the horse that I had hugged and cried on the night before, turned to the right and ran straight into a car and died. And so the soul connection, the spiritual connection that I felt that evening with the horse and the overwhelming sadness was because death was coming, and there was nothing I could do about it except cry. And so that experience was very monumental in my shift in the awareness that I started to place on these feelings and emotions that were created specifically through horses for me. Now, I've had dogs and cats, and that it didn't seem like their energy spoke as loudly to me as a horse's did. But I've realized over the years that by tuning into the horse's energy, it's brought my awareness to a higher level that now I can tune into the dog or the cat or the birds, whatever it may be. So those were like the most monumental changes that just really made me feel like, okay, there's something here. I should pursue it and figure out how and why I'm connected with it.
It's interesting that you're bringing up that tuning in. I work with people sometimes where they're like, I have my own way of connecting, but there's something about this dog or this horse I can't do it. And I said, it's just like a dial. Sometimes it means bringing your frequency down. I feel like once you are able to do those adjustments, it doesn't matter if it's a plant, an animal, or the earth. You tap into all of it. That's a fascinating story. Thank you for sharing that.
You're so welcome. You know, when the questions that you had brought me back so far, like just nostalgic memories. Really beautiful questions.
Oh, I know we all have this and it comes through differently. Can you talk about when you are connecting, how you perceive what they're saying?
Yes,
Sharing
absolutely.
how that comes through for you?
It's different for different animals now.
Okay.
And to go back to what you said, it's so I very recently met someone that can do it with plants. I've never had that connection. And so I was wondering, because obviously the plant is, for me, it was just like, the plant's just a plant. How are you doing that? But the dog and the horses, specifically the horses, they're very loud with their facial expressions. They're very loud with their body language. Whereas the dogs, for me, they're very loud with their eyes. And it's only the dog's eyes for me. I can see through their actions, but their eyes are what we speak through. The dog and I speak through the eyes. The horses and I speak through the body and through the sounds and the hand gestures. Yeah, it just really depends on the animal. Most of the time, and I'm seeing with the goats and the chickens, they're very vocal as well, right? So I can speak to them just by speaking. But the dogs, it's not even so much that I have to say anything out of my mouth. It's more of a thought and a look. And it's like the only word I really can think of is just like telekinesis. With the dogs, it's definitely telekinesis. With the horses, it's a little bit of both. It's a little telekinesis and it's a little bit of body language and sound. But yeah, it just depends on the animal. So when you mentioned how when you get grounded, you can do it with everything, plants included. I thought plants have to be telekinesis, because there's no eyes to look at, and there's no verbal sounds, or maybe sounds. I'm sure they understand as well, but yeah, it's got to be telekinesis. And for me, the dogs mostly telekinesis, and the horses, it's a verbal telekinesis.
Interesting. Similarly, when I'm communicating with dogs, and I tell people all animals pick up on our visuals, like things that we are thinking. They can see it, and time and space is not a linear thing. Nothing is for sure. There's thousands upon thousands of possibilities. But if we are tuning into one thing, one possibility, they can already see or know, and they have their own plans. For sure, dogs, they're highly visual. That's interesting though for you. It really, you can, do this.
Yeah,
um,
the
that's
dogs are like
that's
that.
cool. That's cool. Like, just don't even need to just yeah, you know what
Yeah,
we're
well, yeah, I hope I'm not jumping the gun with this, but it's backfired on me too now. It's definitely like I've put myself in positions where I thought we got this. We're both in mutual agreement,
doing.
and we were not. And
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I suffered a pretty severe injury because of it.
Oh,
I Here at my ranch, I try and do my best to take everything. I take dogs, I take cats, I take chickens, I take goats, I take horses. I try my best to open the doors to any of them. And if they say, "Hey, this rooster has a problem," I think I can fix it. This dog has a problem, I think I can fix it. So I got a dog that had a lot of issues. And I thought we were working through those issues, and maybe and this is another thing, like everything, like you said it beautifully. They might have a whole other agenda that it doesn't matter what the time frame is. They may not be on your agenda. It may literally be, this is not how my dog life is going to go. I've already seen it and it's going this way. For Zeus was his name. He had already spent so much of his life in fight mode that it was very hard to bring him out of that. And even when I was able to bring him out of that, because that's what he knew, he would revert right back to it. I gave it my best shot for about a month. And in that month time frame, I got him socialized with other dogs. I got the muzzle off of him, but it only took that one time that I didn't have the muzzle on him for it to become a very serious issue.
mhm.
I think that in me, if a dog is wearing a muzzle all the time, it starts to burn. It starts to create a rub on their face.
Yeah.
And not only does it look uncomfortable, but I'm sure it feels uncomfortable. So now you have this dog who's been relegated to a muzzle, who almost feels like the muzzle is a part of him.
Mhm.
And when you take it off, he's bare and vulnerable. And
Yeah.
so when I took the muzzle off during a feeding session, three of the dogs got into a fight, and I attempted to break the fight up, and Zeus attacked me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, unfortunately, where I thought I could save this dog, but wasn't able to help that dog. I really do think the only way he is thriving is to be alone, to be isolated with humans, and that's it.
I tell people it's not like our trauma where like we're thinking about it all the time and we hold on to it like here, but it's in their fascia. It's so part of their nervous system. So they can be fine, 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 and wanting so hard to feel safe. But it can be a smell, a trigger.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it's their neural pathway. They're animals. Yes, they're spiritual beings. They have an ascended, they have a soul, but we have to remain humble that they are animals. Their brain is wired like an animal, and food and safety, you never know. And so I think you're right. Sounds like he's older and that's probably what he needed. But I'm glad you were okay though.
Yeah, it was I mean, I have a pretty I'll have this gnarly scar for the rest of my life, but
Oh wow.
that's a very serious reminder of sometimes the communication is not going to work. That's definitely helped me because whereas before, like I said, I'm thinking I can save you all. The reality is you can't.
Right.
Sometimes some animals, they need to be isolated with one person. Not saying that they have to be euthanized, but they need to be isolated with one person so that those situations, those smells, and those triggers don't happen.
Yeah. You have to be pragmatic at a certain point. It is about your whole family of animals. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for us that are like these bleeding hearts.
It was a very rude wake up call for
Yeah.
me, but I definitely needed it because at
Yeah.
that time I was willing to take on seriously troubled animals. And I think that was the universe saying to me, don't take more than you can handle, Chris. because it could definitely be worse than just a mangled arm.
Yeah, our emotions, you gotta.
Exactly. It's funny. Someone asked me the other day, do I now have a post-traumatic type of response to those situations? And I don't. I really don't. But it was definitely an eye-opening experience.
That's an interesting question. I don't think so because I don't know.
That's kind of just what we deal with. We
Yeah,
know
it's
these things
like
are
no,
possible.
like
Yeah,
this, my bad. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I did want to ask you something I've observed. You have a very strong faith and you're very willing to share that. I was wondering, was that always with you or has that evolved? Has your work with animals deepened your faith?
It's definitely evolved. My work has deepened it for sure. There's two really significant things that happened that really opened my eyes to that. This is a good story I haven't told. I'm not Muslim, but I thought that Ramadan was interesting in order to discipline one's body to
Mhm.
fast the way that they do. And I thought that seems like a pretty good challenge. Let me see if I can do it. And so I fasted and I did it for the entirety of Ramadan. And it was very difficult, but it was so rewarding. And even more so rewarding that on the last day, I like to think he was a wolf, but I don't know what he was. A stray dog that resembled a wolf as a puppy came into my property. And when I saw him, he was so small and dirty and fast that I thought for sure this is an adult dog who got lost and wandered over here, and he's just going to go back and find his people. But Marissa and my dogs ran over to him and he bolted. And Marissa was like, that's a puppy. And I was like, that is not a puppy. One, he's too fast to be a puppy because he just outran a human adult and three grown dogs. Puppies can't do that. And then he hid and they couldn't find him. So I was like, okay, maybe he was a mangy old dog that ran back home to his neighbor's house or whatever, right? So then I came back to the ranch and I stayed here. We had guests that day. So I was talking to the guests and we were all standing by the pasture. Marissa and the other dogs were gone. And sure enough, that puppy came walking down back towards the office. And I was like, he must smell the water because we chased him twice and he ran. Other dogs chased him and he ran. So the only reason he would be coming over here is because he smells water and he's thirsty. So as I was talking to the guest, I filled some water up, I put some dog food in a bowl, and I took it over to where my wood pile is stacked up. And then I went back to doing what I was doing. Well, the guests left, and I remember this specifically because it was such a very unique incident. So the guests left at 11 o'clock. And I thought to myself, now's the time for me to go see what this puppy is doing, right? So I go to get him, and he jumps up out of his sleep and he beelines straight to the front. So I'm full out chasing him. He runs up the fence line. I chase him. He runs, turns around, runs back down the fence line. I chase him. And then finally he cowers because he doesn't think he can get out. And he lays down and he pees. And I'm like, this dog is terrified. So I pick him up and I put him down in the goat pen because it's fenced in and he can't get out. Where we live in Yucca, there's a mountain behind us. And just to tell you how wild it is, there's a mountain lion back there, there's bobcats back there, and I know how my dogs act when there's wildlife around. So when they come back, all of them are acting like there's a wild animal in the goat pen.
Right.
And their hair stood up and they're growling, and there's a tiny little puppy in the goat pen. Long story short, I named him Wolf. Wolf stays here, and I haven't talked about it for a while, so forgive me if I get emotional. Wolf wouldn't let any human touch him, barely let me touch him. And he was the most alert dog I've ever seen. And to look like a wolf in the desert, he was the only dog during the summer that when it was 110 degrees out, he wasn't hiding in the shade. He was hunting in the bushes. At that time, I didn't have barn cats. Wolf would catch the rats and eat them. We went out on a ride late at night. It was a full moon ride. And as we're riding back, Wolf kind of runs off, goes in his own direction. And he never comes back. The next day, I'm freaking out. I don't know where he's at because even though he does his own thing, he always comes back. And he never came back. Marissa called the pound and found out that a dog that fit his description had been hit on the highway. I haven't talked about it. So sometimes I kind of keep things to myself because I want to deal with it my own way. But she went and got him, and it was him. She brought him back. And she was going out of town that day anyway. So it was like, there's a saying that man goes through his toughest times alone. And Wolf died alone. He went off by himself. He died alone. And even though he wasn't like a domestic dog, I still felt like he was mine. But there's a happy ending, I promise. I dug his grave and I spent time with him. Wow. Right now, as I'm talking, there's a hawk flying over my pasture.
Oh.
Golly. I never realized how much sadness this carried. And the hawk is solidifying that his spirit soars. When I said there's a happy ending to this, when I buried Wolf, a wolf-shaped face in the clouds came. And I thought, they say the Mexican wolf is extinct here in this area. And I kid you not, he looked like a wolf. He acted like a wolf. And he came after that fast, that humbling. So, wow. I don't know if you can see it. I'll flip it for you. I'm gonna get up and go. You see it?
Yep. Ah.
So yeah, I deal with that kind of stuff on my own, obviously. But that's the happy ending. I think that hawk, and you and I both know what it means. That hawk solidifies what this whole interview is about. The universe and the animals can tell if your spirit is with them. And I think that the fast itself and Wolf in his actions and the way he carried himself as an animal, especially because I truly think he was a wolf, how kind he was with his time, with his knowledge, just with his strength. Wow. Yeah, I haven't talked about it at all since it happened because obviously it carries a lot of weight for me. But I believe that he was a gift in so many ways. And just like all of the greatest gifts, they're only there for so long. So, sorry about that.
It's just hard to face with how fragile life is, and sounds like you appreciate. I definitely know that we're not physically here, but we continue.
For sure. Yeah.
Hard to miss that.
Most definitely. You
Yeah.
can't like I said, the happy ending was after I buried Wolf, I kind of was just looking for the sign, like, let me know you're okay.
Mm.
I know you had to pass up to the other side by yourself, but at least let me know that you're there, you know? And that cloud in his head appeared, and I was like, am I seeing things in my grief, or is this really happening? But then as I'm getting ready to talk about it, the eagle comes, or the hawk, and he's right there.
Mhm.
Like, yep, that was me. I miss you too, buddy. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff, it's there.
Yeah, and I
The
think
other,
you have to be open to it.
yeah, you do have to be. Yeah, you do have to be open. That it takes a certain kind of vulnerability. But that vulnerability and that openness is what helps the animals to understand I can be safe with you. I can talk to you. The other story that I was going to tell you is you know, when I was young, I would be charged with clearing trail, which is basically like making sure that it's accessible for novice riders to go down these trails without any issues. And I had a mentor and a very dear friend who was preparing me for more than just clearing trail, but life in itself. And I'm out there clearing trail one day, and me and the horse, and I don't know how many books you've read about how animals can talk, but and how animals see things that you don't see. I'm out on trail, and the horse. We've got to this spot in trail where it really is impassable. And just for an example, this horse was so good that it would spread its front hooves and duck under things with me on its back. We got to a spot where nothing was working. I had to get off and chop my way through vines so that we could continue. But there was a moment, and I don't know, I think riding horses is spiritual anyway, and you get to these points where you've been on a horse for sometimes 6 hours, and you're meditating and you're breathing and you're in a different mental state, right?
Mm.
So I'm out there and I'm having this conversation with God, and the conversation is going something like, the world sucks, evil is winning, why aren't you doing anything? And the horse stops, like dead in its tracks. And I'm pulling it and it won't go anywhere. And I'm trying all the tricks. I'm trying to change direction. I'm trying to make it move its feet, and it will not move. And I'm not going to say it's an audible voice because it really wasn't. It was more of a feeling, almost like how the dogs communicate. It was more of a feeling that said to me, don't you know I control everything? And it started going down a list of things. The wind and dust started blowing up, and all this gnats started flying in my eyes. And it was like, you think they can shoot with gnats in their eyes and dust blowing in their face? And I was shocked. And then the vines felt like they were wrapping around my legs, and it was like I control the trees, the vines, the wind. I'm allowing this right now.
Yeah.
But when I say it's done, it's over. And I was like, whoa, okay. And it wasn't until I gave that release, like, okay, you got it, that my horse was like, all right, I'll walk with you now.
Mm-hmm.
So those were my two very spiritual experiences with horses that just elevated my connection to the higher power. And okay, so this young lady is pulling up right now, and if it's okay, she's all right. She's okay. Yeah, she's fine. So yesterday she came for a interactive experience with the horses. And it's funny because I one of the horses was really adamant about spending time with her, and I he's
Oh.
right here. He's right here, by the way. I'm on a podcast. You're more than welcome to come over here because I know why you're here. So come on over. And there was a baby goat that was a day old that got stuck on the side of the shade structure, and it literally was dying. And the girl who saved him, he's right here, by the way. Come here and get him.
Oh, he's right there.
This is him, and this is her.
Oh,
this is a very interesting
crazy story.
ad lib.
Yeah, so for some reason, I was so adamant about finding the 1-day-old baby goat. So I was looking, it's been like 10 minutes, and I was like ready to give up, and all of a sudden I see like a little bit of fur in between like the gates, and I look over, and here he is, like half dead. He like was barely breathing. And I was like, oh my God, I think he's dying. He was looking for goat milk and couldn't find goat milk because I don't know. It was just like a stressful situation. But there's this health food store that I go to that has goat milk. So I booked it to go get goat milk. And then we saved the baby.
But,
and he named him Taylor for me.
But tell her how you think the horse was telling you.
The horse kept following me, and 2 of them were following me. And I believe that the horse was trying to tell me, go find this little guy.
we've been talking about how everybody has their own way of sensing it, but like sometimes it's just a knowing, or like, oh, I have this urgent thing I need to do, or visually a flash. I'm very visual, but it sounds like you just said, oh, I need to find that baby goat.
It was a beautiful experience and a really beautiful place. I had to come back. I had an emotional, spiritual experience here for sure.
And you named the baby goat Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a goat now named after me in Joshua Tree. How amazing. Yeah. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Taylor, if you want, you can take him. I just gave him some bottle.
Okay.
You can hold him. Yeah, totally fine.
Oh, he's so tiny.
Yeah, he's little. I mean, he's 2 days old now. When Taylor first came into the pasture, Juliet, the horse, I really used Juliet a lot as an energy horse. And Juliet and Taylor just connected. And I was like, wow. I gave her a reading, which I thought was what the horse was saying. And they stayed connected. And then after Taylor had pointed where the goat was to me and went and got the goat's milk and everything took place, later that evening, we exchanged messages on Instagram, and she was like, I really feel like the horse was telling me, go find that baby goat. She left the pasture, was like, hey, I want to go look at the goats. And I was like, okay, go ahead. And then found the baby. He's totally fine, but he literally was like on his last leg. It was hot yesterday, and he was stuck in the pallet.
Yeah.
Had she not went in there and found him, he definitely wouldn't have made it.
So interesting that story is coming up, right? As we had this, that's the message that I'm hearing over and over from the horses. And to your point too, where it's like, you don't always want to share or feel like you should share. I'm sure you have plenty other experiences where you're like, no, that one's kind of more private. I'm definitely a little too private maybe. And they're telling me like, share more, talk more, these sorts of things. You and I decide we're going to have a conversation, and then Juliet's like, I also want you to talk about this.
I think that's beautifully said, and you're right, because this is a gift that you have that you can share with people, because most people probably have this gift, but they don't put the time in, or they don't even think it's possible until they have a spiritual situation happen where they're like, whoa, was that communication with an animal? How did that? But if someone like yourself can put it out there that this happens a lot. I do this all the time. It's not something that you're not capable of doing. You have to open your heart and open your mind and be open to it happening for you. And then it might.
Well, and our logical brains are always going to try to make sense of it or tell us no. And if you really are wanting to connect, you want to connect to your dog or your horse that passed on, they're constantly giving little things. And sometimes it means overriding that logical part of your brain, the wolf showing up in the clouds and just going with it and saying, thank you, I see you. And then you're coming more and more. And sometimes it starts like a little flick, and then it's a smack, and then it's like a 2x4 across your face. Like, I'm here, Taylor. So
Hmm.
she really felt it. You said you're aware of people that come to your facility. Do you notice a shift in them when you can tell they're feeling it?
Most certainly. I think it has to do with a few things. Even though I believe in all this spirituality and energy and whatnot, I try to figure out, like, is there really something going on that changes this place? And the funny thing is, what I've come up with, horse manure is used as a carbon credit because it cleans the air.
Hmm.
So when people come to my property, the air is cleaner. So their brain gets that more oxygenated air and they feel open. They feel fulfilled just because of the breath. Second, there's this symbiotic family with the dogs, the cats, the horses, the chickens, the turkeys, the people that are here. So they see this togetherness. They're breathing this fresh, clean air.
Hmm.
They're in the middle of it, what it would seem to be nowhere, right? So your mind, when you're in the middle of nowhere, is very open.
Hmm.
It's open to information. And a lot of people, and I never used this term, but a lot of people have given me this term, they've used this term, downloads. You get these genetic downloads.
Hmm.
And so when it comes to the energy vortex that Joshua Tree is, I think it's such an open place. And with this atmosphere, the way that we've created it here, it's so refreshing. People kind of decompress. A lot of folks are coming here from the city, so they're constantly bombarded with the sounds and the lights and the noise that the city has, to come out here and only be surrounded by goats and horses and chickens and dogs. So they get to kind of drop their guard, if you will. And when people constantly have their guard up, and I'm not saying the city is bad, but there's so many things that you have to worry about in the city that, whether you know it or not, your guard is up 24/7.
Hmm.
So when you come to a place like this where you feel safe, where the animals make you feel safe, where the air feels clean, and you're able to drop that guard, it's almost like a full body reset, decompression. And so that has a lot to do with the energy that people are feeling when they come here. But aside from that, the setting in Joshua Tree, if you just take a look around, you feel like you're in a bowl. There are mountains on every side of you, and the sky kind of overlaps you. So it almost starts making you think, I've taken everything so serious. I'm so insignificant in this big world and wild wonder around me. Maybe I should just relax a little. It's a accumulation of all those things that just really gives this place the magical feeling that it has. I've worked really hard to create a safe space for these unwanted animals, and growing up and dealing with the things that I've dealt with, feeling like an unwanted human, I've also worked hard to create a space that is welcoming not only to animals, but other humans as well. And
Hmm.
I hope that they can feel that when they come here.
Your nervous system can actually handle it, and then yeah, you get these downloads.
Yes, that's such a better way to say it, right? Your senses are allowed to open up and your nervous system is allowed to come to life,
Yeah.
really. You start to get these sensations and these feelings, and you're aware of your presence and yourself in this world in a more significant way than just another head at the office or another person on the street.
Basically set up a grid, a bubble, come as you are. That's God's message, right? Come as you are, messy.
Wow. These animals don't care. They just
No,
want you to give them the same unconditional love that they are willing to give you.
no.
Humans so often have to show up with masks on for the world to accept them, or for their job to feel like they're worthy. When they come to the ranch, they come out here in this space, you can just be.
Mhm,
And sometimes people will come, they may not even be having the greatest time on their vacation here,
mhm,
but the animals see right through all of that.
mhm,
And they see you still showed up.
mhm.
You still showed up to give us love, to be present with us. I'm going to send you the winning energy that you deserve.
Yeah, some of them are better at filling in that space, and some of them are like, yeah, no, go come back when you
That's
figure
true.
it out.
That's true. But even that is eye opening. Even that is
Oh
enlightening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that animal just told me to get my life together.
Yeah, I've been
And
told.
don't come back. Yeah, it's
I've been
totally what
told
I mean.
that. We're talking about how to really be in this place where we get our messages, where we have clarity. It's intuition. It's being grounded. I was wondering, have you ever had a time where you had a strong intuition and you didn't listen to it? Or did you learn something from that?
Oh, absolutely. That was the story I shared with you of Zeus, the dog.
Okay.
I right away had the strong intuition that this is probably not a good idea. I started second guessing myself because I thought, no, this is a good idea.
Hmm.
This is how an animal is supposed to be. This is how they're going to thrive. If I was to sum that up, and what I learned from that is you really have to trust your intuition, because it's not like it's trying to steer you wrong.
Hmm.
It's there to try to guide you to the right thing.
Hmm.
And it comes back to that free will. You have the free will to either listen to that intuition
Right.
and adhere to it, or say, you know what, even though I feel this, I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
And with that decision making, you have to understand sometimes it's not going to work out.
Hmm.
And if you would have listened to your intuition, you might have saved yourself a lot of problems, time, even money, energy, all by listening to that first intuition. And I will say this because I remember this being one of your questions as well. If there's a certain practice that one has prior to going about their day, or getting ready to receive these messages or what have you, I think first and foremost is taking that 10 or even 5 minutes to set your intentions. How do you want this day to unfold for you?
Hmm.
And where I'm at, we have the beauty of being able to watch the sun rise and the sun set. You truly see the sun walking across the sky, and you have an opportunity to make the most of your time while that sun travels. And if you don't, then there's no one you can blame but yourself. Making that time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, when you're having your tea or your coffee, to just think, how do I want this day to go? I feel I have a better day when I do that. When I get into a rush and I just try to go and attack the day with no plan or no understanding of why I'm doing what when I'm doing it, things can get chaotic.
How do you hold your North Star? How do you hang on to that when there's negative stuff coming at you too?
You know what? I'm going to defer back to the animals. They are the North Star. Just use them as your guide. When you said in the beginning, I feel like the horses are telling me to watch how I stand,
Mhm.
watch how I find this food,
Mhm.
watch how I communicate with my family members. These animals, they are so resilient.
Mhm.
They don't care if it's windy and cold and hot and rainy. They endure it. They deal with it.
Mhm.
So I use that strength myself. I know that things are not always going to be perfect. And sometimes things are going to get hard. Just deal with it.
Mhm.
I know it can be difficult. And having people to share with, having people to talk to about it, that helps also.
Mhm.
But I really defer back to the animals because of their resilience and how well they just keep on going.
Mhm.
And going back to when people aren't having the best day, just show up and give your best. So that's how I look at it. Just
Yeah.
constantly show up.
I love that. You're right. Like, if you can't run, walk.
If
Can't
you
walk,
can't walk,
crawl.
crawl. Right. That's
Do
right.
you have any projects you want to talk about coming
No,
up?
not right now. We're coming into the slower season. This is summertime, so it's going to be a little hot, but we're ready for September for people to start coming back out. And if you ever have the time or you find yourself out this way, I'd be honored to have you here.
Oh, I'm gonna make it happen for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, very
I'll
cool.
come give you a hug.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much
Thank you
again.
so much.
And
All
we
right.
can do this again sometime. I totally loved it, what you were doing, and this I love being a part of it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.